and it's also the 20th day of July 2022. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Vaso Obaseki, and it's a wonderful pleasure to have you here with me. Yeah, I've been off for a few days, going around town, trying to figure out certain things, and I am back. I am back. I am back. DJ, come on. Okay, that's enough goofing around. Okay, so I trust your day has been good and your week has been good too. But I don't know about me. I have been a bit mentally stressed, but I just want to share this with you. And this came as a result of what I had been going through a few times this month, last month, and the month before. And it's absolutely one thing that I hate in my life. I hate it with passion. Like, when I know hate is a strong word, but yes, that's how much I hate it. I hate it with a strong word. Okay, so I'm talking about regrets. Yes, regrets. I regret knowing you. I regret seeing you. Yeah, we've heard that a lot of times from people. But quite frankly, what causes regrets? I mean, we know that we sometimes regret our actions. We sometimes, someone said regrets can be a good thing. But here is an article I would like to read out to you guys, and I hope it says anything to you. I really hope. Okay, so there was once a banker in his 50s who had worked 7 days a week for 25 years. Wow. And became very wealthy. Then at the apex of his career, he looked around and realized that he had entirely neglected his family. As a result, his family had rejected him. The regret was overwhelming and came out in panic attacks every Sunday. Would this man be able to find a way out of this cruel place he had created for himself? So this man was a patient of the psychoanalyst David Morgan of the Institute of Psychoanalysis, who spent several years helping him explore what had compelled him to work so hard and ignore his children. He had been anonymized and gave Morgan permission to use his case. It became clear that his need to become richer than everyone else had had deep roots in him early in his childhood, when he watched his parents nearly starve to death during the 1980s miners' strike. He had unconsciously repeated this, and by so doing, impoverishing his children by not being there for them, nor letting them be there for him. In turn, impoverishing himself. Of these loving relationships, in efforts to overcome the traumatic poverty of his childhood. Now, that complicated understanding, Morgan explains, freed up things, setting his regrets in a generalization or general context, so he didn't have to feel quite so guilty for acting sometimes out. Because it was beyond his ken, it doesn't mean that he can't feel real pain. But that pain is given a sense of history. This meant his regret could be understood and given meaning, and that changed his life. Regrets can be all-consuming and it can destroy lives. Oh, trust me, it can. We can see it all around us, whether it's in the man who cannot forgive himself for cheating on his first girlfriend and had not been in a serious relationship in 30 years, or the woman who is so tied up in wishing she should had a child with her ex-partner instead of breaking up with him, that she cannot find happiness in her current circumstance. It's not usual for patients to seek therapy because they feel plagued by regrets and unable to live full lives because of it, says Morgan. Whether it is over affairs, career choices, or relationships, this kind of regret that brings people to his consulting room is paranoid and persecutory. It's the, oh God, I'm so terrible, I'm so dreadful, he says. It is self-flagellation, and it can be incredibly damaging to our mental health. It's exhausting, it sucks all joy and fulfillment from our days and leaves us stuck, always looking backwards and unable to move forward in our lives. The cognitive behavior therapist Wendy Dryden says that when we are trapped in this circle of regret, characterized by rigidity and inflexibility, we only seem able to blame ourselves for what has happened, rather than seeing our behavior in a wider context and understanding why we took the paths we did based on the information we had at the time. Under this conditions, regret will become toxic. Yet, strange as it sounds, there are people for whom this kind of regret can become a safe haven because it can protect them from the pain and risk of living a full life. I think someone says regret can be used by some as a defense against loving. Ooh. She describes a scenario made up of various anonymous patients. A woman whom she'll call Amy. Okay, I'll call Amy. After living a long-term marriage, held on to her regrets at having married too young and stayed too long, and was determined not to make any mistakes the next time around. Ready to make a fresh start, she signed up on various dating websites and began going on first dates. Although there were men who wanted a second date, Wortley explained that there was always something about them she felt unsure about. Somebody's shyness or a look in his eyes. She was very preoccupied with getting into the right relationship, but unconsciously she was doing all she could to protect herself from getting into one at all, because she was terrified of repeating the disappointment and hurt she had already endured. Amy was in danger of falling into another trap outlined by Dryden. If you avoid doing anything that you might regret later, you will disengage from relationships, opportunities, and eventually life itself. And the irony is, there is no more powerful source of regrets than that. Once Amy could make a shift towards allowing herself to get it wrong, she was able to make a swift move beyond the first date with a man, even though she was not sure he was entirely right for her. This was the only way she could get to know which men she liked and which she did not. We have to open ourselves up to the possibility of making mistakes and regretting them in order to learn from the experience. That's not even an easy thing to do, but with practice, it does get easier, because the more we can allow ourselves to make mistakes, if we can learn from them, and fewer mistakes we make. She has seen patients like Amy go on to develop long-term fulfilling and loving relationship. But regret does not only serve as a defense against the risk of loving, it can serve a darker purpose, allowing people hide from the deeper pain of remorse. Morgan says remorse involves insight into what one has done to others. That's the beginning of becoming aware of how one behaves and wanting to do something differently. It's a real breakthrough in therapy when people can begin to experience genuine remorse for what they've done, something, authentic can start to happen. Okay, according to the read, it's a very long read. I would have loved to put the link, but I'm not sure I want to do that. Okay, let me read this next column. Say, what does it take to move from using regret as a stick with which to beat ourselves to experiencing remorse as a way forward to a better future? Dryden believes it requires a shift from an inflexible mindset filled with certainties such as I absolutely should have done this and I absolutely should have done that, which he calls the enemy of learning, to asking the question, I wonder why I didn't do that. Once you're occupying this more flexible frame of mind, he suggests imagining you are talking to a loved one, be it a child, friend, spouse, and to find that same space of acceptance and compassion for yourself. He makes a point that I find myself thinking about weeks later. There's a tendency that with regret to see the pathway you didn't take as inevitably better than the pathway you did. It may well be that this other pathway would indeed have worked out better. Sorry about my errors. Screen is so bright. But the point is that we cannot know for sure. It is that certainty, that transformation into knowledge of what can only ever really be a supposition. That is the hallmark of toxic regret. It is the ability to accept yourself, to recognize that there was a wider context to your action, and to understand that you made the decision you made based on the values and information you had at the time. That leads to remorse and self-acknowledgement. Dryden says, take the psychological evaluation of cod liver oil, which doesn't taste nice, but will you do good? Accept the point, difficult to swallow, though it may be, that yes, it would have been nice if you made a different choice, but you could only have acted as you did at the time in those circumstances. So let me stop the read here. Regrets really comes, like they have said, can only be avoided when you let yourself understand that, look, the choices I made at those points in times were the choices available to me, or I could actually readily see. If I knew that I had better options, I would have taken them. And it's not just saying if I knew, it's about saying, okay, now is the time to make better options. Now is the time to make better decisions. Now is the time to move forward. Now is the time to do something differently. Not staying stuck where you are or where you used to be. Being in one position all your life and not seeing that there are other places to be can ultimately lead to regrets, and regret drives away remorse, because when you don't feel remorseful about what you have done, you don't see the need to change, because change comes from remorse, and remorse helps you evolve from where you used to be, seeing the lessons, knowing what you have done, and taking a cue from there and moving to the next phase of your life. So, what am I trying to say in essence? I'm saying that take a deep breath. Go back. Pause. Don't think about the future. Think about the past and see the other options you would have readily taken. Now pause also. Come now to where you are and see the options you have, and get an open mind to see that you can actually be a better person. Even when you make mistakes, which is human here, know that mistakes are meant for humans, not animals or not for trees. And our mistakes are what makes us grow. So when you make mistakes, see what you made, what your mistakes were, learn from them, and move forward. Because the only way you can avoid regret is moving forward. You have to move forward. You have to move forward. Move forward. Moving forward helps. It helps you get out of where you used to be. Don't get stuck in your head. Don't get stuck in the past. Move. You're not a tree. Come on. I love you. and I hope to see you change. Have a wonderful morning.